actually lost one. I had a guy on here that was a Bigfoot hunter.
Okay.
Like legit went to like the Appalachian Mountains. I know it's flimsy, and he went to the Appalachian Mountains to go Bigfoot hunting, and I was like, "That's cool." And he was talking about like how he has like an uncle or whatever in Tennessee that is like gung ho about Bigfoot hunting, and we were like, "Okay, well, I'll have you on, and we'll talk about like Bigfoot and UFOs, skinwalkers, and stuff like that." And I'm like, I'm gonna sound so crazy talking about this, but I mean, I think it's fun to talk about. I don't know how much of that stuff is real, but that's here nor there, right?
Depends on who you ask.
I know. All right. Well, guys, welcome back to Trulea Entertainment. I'm your host, Cory Lea, and on today's episode, I got Patty G.
What's up? What's up, man? Good afternoon, good morning, or good night.
Better known as Patrick for you guys that don't know.
Depends on how they know me, right?
I know, right? I know. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, man.
Of course, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the invite. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too, man. I'm super excited. This has been a journey. I mean, I think I'd have to look at my DMs. How long ago did we have that conversation at, what was that? It was the Red Stick?
It was at Red Stick Social. We had at the ramen bar.
Yes.
So we were having a beer at some Japanese beer at the ramen bar, I believe.
Yeah.
And I want to say it was in 22, if not 21.
It's been a while.
Because it was right in that COVID era where they were just getting back to normal as far as people going to the restaurant and everything. So I want to say we were in the ballpark of 21, 22. So three or 4 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, if you back it up a little bit, it should help a little bit with the pop.
Okay. I didn't know how close I'm supposed to be.
I know I had Corbin Barnes help me with the compression. I'm still tweaking with it to get like all the pops out.
Yeah, well, you can do all that in that Rodecaster right there. You go in the settings, you pick the mic you're on, and then I would tone down the decibels a little bit.
You think?
Yeah.
All right.
If it's popping, that's what I would do.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah,
Awesome.
But you should be fine. It's learning. How's the learning process for you, man?
It's been slow. I'm gonna be honest with you, because it's a little intimidating at first, right? Because I say that I was never like this big tech or equipment guy. Mm-hmm. I was always like, I'm probably gonna break it. Even like today, I work on a computer every day of my life for my career,
right?
Outside of this podcasting, and my wife tells me I am the most unintelligent computer person that works on a computer that she knows. Like, you would think I would get better after years of being on it. No, never.
Well, and this is a whole different element too, because you've got audio and video working together.
Oh yeah, and was that that was a really hard, a rock and a hard place is a pretty good term, because I was going in with it like no learning. Like, I'm straight up YouTubing, right? Deep in Reddit.
So you went the Reddit route.
Well, I couldn't find like specific things that I was looking for, because one, I didn't know what to ask. Like what was the right question to ask, like YouTube, like, or just in general Google.
Right.
So then I would just go down and, podcasters on Reddit and just went deep, like subreddits after subreddit, and like just deep dive. And occasionally I would find a word. I'm like, oh wait, okay, maybe that's what I need to YouTube. And then I'd YouTube it, and sure enough, oh, this is exactly what I needed. So then it was just finding the right, I guess, phrase to put in, Google and YouTube to figure out how to make all this work together and jive together, because it's a lot. It was intimidating.
Oh yeah. So I did Daniel J. Lewis, the Audacity to Podcast was his podcast that I listened to on how to podcast.
Come on.
Back in like 2017, 2018.
Yeah.
And so he went through the whole gamut of software to use to edit, how to record, what type of equipment you want to do. And with each episode, he would hyperlink, like within his show notes, the actual gear and everything that he was discussing that episode. Boy. So I listened to like probably 24 of his episodes, just going deep on that. And then I said, okay, now I know enough of what I need to Google to find out on YouTube. But before, Chat GPT, now you can say, build me a podcast.
I know, right?
And it'll spit you out a whole specs list. And then you say, add hyperlinks, and it'll hyperlink everything for you.
Oh, that is like
before then, when you had to do research, our new old-fashioned way of Googling and figuring out what other people are doing, it was tough. But you've seemed to done well. The gear you've got's good, so you're in the right spot.
I had a guy very well versed in this to at least tell me or put me in the direction of what equipment that was, at least up to par to have a legit podcast.
Right.
I say legit. I'm still amateur, but I'm getting there. I got to start somewhere.
Your gear's legit.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And your shows. I mean, you're only on episode 3, and you've got some great people on here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is episode 3, right?
No.
Oh, what episode is this?
This will be airing Wednesday, and next Wednesday, and it'll be episode 8.
8. Okay, sorry.
No,
I think I wonder if the template I got said 3. Somewhere I saw 3. I don't know.
I need to change
Either way,
it.
it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Episode 8. So you're 8 episodes in.
Yep.
So I'll be episode 8.
Yeah.
That's my favorite number.
Yeah. Come on,
That's my lucky number. Is 8.
Did you play any sports?
I did.
Yeah.
Back in grammar school. That was it?
Was that your number?
No, my number 8. My love of number 8 stemmed from line duty when I went to grammar school at Our Lady of Mercy.
Come on.
I was number 8 in line every time. And so
kidding.
that's was just my assigned number. And so from there I was like, well, okay, 8's my number.
There you go.
So much so where now there's a running joke with my in-laws that I'll tell them to set 8-minute timers, and we'll do like 8-minute timers for certain days.
8-minute timers. I love it.
So 8's my number. And so now I'm episode 8. I love it, man.
That was just, it sounds like it's just meant to be. Yeah.
It's like that Sesame Street song, seeing all your kid stuff around here. It reminds me of, Sesame Street and the Count saying, 8's the same thing, upside down and right side up.
God, I can't even remember the last time I watched that show. God. In fact, it's funny that you say 8 and we're on podcast 8. My number in Pee Wee football and Peanut football was 8. And then I played baseball my whole life up until high school. I think my sophomore year, I hung it up. But I was 8.
There you go. It was meant to be, man.
I know, right? Yeah. Another number that me and my wife see all the time is 444. And I forgot the
it's Dudley DeBosier.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the number. Yeah, right.
That's Dudley DeBosier's number, 444 4444.
I see it everywhere, and that's probably a good assumption of why I'm seeing it everywhere in Baton Rouge. But I feel like before I guess we noticed it was Dudley DeBosier, it's some kind of like happy, good sign number. I forget it's not. I'm lost of words. What was that? I'm thinking about like a Taurus and Gemini and stuff like that. It's like some kind of
like your sign or something.
Yeah, it's not a sign. It's like one of those like fortune cookie like.
Okay. Oh, like your lucky number on the back of the fortune cookie type deal.
Yeah, it's something like that. I forget what it's called though. Anyway. So Patrick,
are you missing something?
I printed out the wrong one.
You did? Oh, that's got my name on it.
Oh, look right here. Awesome. Okay. Do you need one, Patrick?
No, I'm good, brother.
You sure?
I'm sure.
I'm winging this.
I wing. I've won mine for 5 years.
You know what? We're gonna
go on a hope and a prayer.
I know, right? We're gonna get there. Okay, yeah. So, Patrick, can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself other than what we've discussed already?
Okay, so outside of my lucky number being 8, and that I only played sports in grammar school. So I'm born and raised Baton Rouge native. Grew up here. Did not go. I went to high school here, but I was homeschooled, so I don't have an affiliation with any of the known Baton Rouge high schools. But I did go to LSU. I was the first graduate from LSU with a paired degree in accounting and entrepreneurship.
I saw that.
And then I tacked on a minor in communications because I don't like having random hour credits on my transcript. So every hour that I was at LSU had a purpose and got me to a specific end goal, whether it was a minor or 2 bachelor's degrees. So being that, I knew I wanted to go to LSU in accounting. That was my plan out the gate because I wanted to be a CPA and help business owners understand the picture that is painted with their financial statements and what that meant and how to make decisions from it. Being raised in an entrepreneurial household, it was kind of a conversation piece of numbers all the time. My mom was a CPA, my dad was an engineer, and he was third generation in a family business. So business talk is what I grew up around. And being a CPA, I saw I could help people understand their businesses and hopefully help them grow their business and expand what they're trying to do. My plan initially was to go in and graduate in 3.5 years with my bachelor's degree and then start my master's program, get my master's of accountancy for the next 2 semesters, another year. But I was hoping to tap into TOPS for one of the semesters of the master's of accountancy to minimize what I would have to pay for tuition overall.
Sure, yeah.
Then as I get in there at LSU and I started going through all these courses and taking accounting, my general business ed, and I'm taking all these electives in communications just because I did speech and debate in high school and then did speech and debate for a semester at LSU on their team. I realized that this entrepreneurship program, I was like, okay, great, I'll just get a minor in it. And so I was going to get a bachelor's in accounting and a minor in entrepreneurship and a minor in communications. I'm like, great, I've filled all my hours. I don't have to take underwater basket weaving. I don't have to take track or, whatever other class that was not necessary for me to graduate, but was just superlative. And so doing so, I became close with the head of, at the time, the ISDS department, which they kind of house the entrepreneurship bit within their little area.
What is that?
ISDS is Information Systems and Decision Science. Basically, like it is. And it really is just statistics.
Okay.
And I'm sure someone's going to clap back and say it's not and go off on a rant. But for the simplified term, it's statistics and just computer decisions.
Okay.
So that was housing the entrepreneurship department because it was so new. They were trying to figure out how do we expand the program. They had just gotten a recent grant from the Stevensons family, and so then they were opening the Stevensons Entrepreneurship and ISDS department.
Okay.
And becoming another great LSU acronym and super long name that on a shirt took up like the entire front quarter whenever they actually came out with shirts. So going there, I became good friends with Dr. Ed Watson, who was running the department at the time. And he, through conversations and one thing leading to another, hearing my story and my game plan, he was like, why don't you get this bachelor's of science in entrepreneurship? And I said, look, I don't want to stay here. Like, there's some people that love college and love going to school, and there's others that are just there to be there and get out as quickly as possible. That was me. Like, I was there. I don't want to be at school for any longer than I have to be because I want to get into the workforce. Was my thought. I wasn't there for the party, and I think in my 4 years there, I went to Tigerland twice. Like, I was not there for the partying at all. But in conversations with Dr. Ed, he ended up convincing me to explore the entrepreneurship path as a degree even further. So much so, we were kind of paving the way for what the bachelor's degree is now at LSU. So now you can actually get a bachelor's in entrepreneurship as a standalone degree. At the time, they literally just got it approved. Yeah. It was my last semester was the first time they got it approved. So it was two of us that graduated with this paired degree. Mary Grace Emery got her paired degree in marketing. Okay. So she was marketing and entrepreneurship. I was accounting and entrepreneurship. So like if you go back to the little pamphlets at the graduation ceremony, you had entrepreneurship BS and you had Mary Grace and I. It was so new that the dean didn't even announce us until after the fact. He told us to go ahead and stand up to be recognized, where literally we were the first ones to do it. And so because of that, we got to be a part of understanding how they develop a curriculum at a university, at a top flagship university nonetheless. And being involved, we kind of got to give our inputs and feedback and really help them design a program that right now is doing some pretty cool things. And they're also still working through how do they evaluate success within a program without necessarily tying it to how many degrees are they giving out, right? Because that's a university's product, is degreed individuals. And I told him you can't really tie entrepreneurship to that, because you may have some folks that drop out to start their own business.
Sure.
But that's not a failure on the university. If anything, that should be a success on the university, because they gave them enough tools within their program to go out and start their business.
Yeah.
So being a part of that even drove more of this entrepreneurial spirit in me. And whenever I graduated, I had my 150 credit hours. I was able to sit and study for the CPA exam. And I love the CPA exam so much that I took 3 parts 3 times before finally passing it and getting licensed.
I love it.
Yeah, it was a hate relationship.
You know what? I love that. I love that. I would be right there with you. I feel like I am the worst test taker out there.
Yeah, look, you either get really good test scores on standardized testing, or you just keep taking them. And I was the one that it took me. I passed the first part the first time, and that kind of got me a little bit too much confidence going into the second go round.
There you go.
Because I was like, oh, this is easy. I got it. No big deal whatsoever. And then the second one kind of like threw me on my butt.
I feel like you have to have a little confidence, like not to make you too nervous, you know?
Well, yeah, you got to have confidence, but my level of confidence was probably a little exceeded that of my knowledge and expertise.
Yeah, okay.
For sure.
Yeah.
Because I was scheduling, I was like, I'm going to get all this done in 12 months or 10 months, whatever. I was like, I'm going to do it. I think it was even less than 12 months, because I was a test, and then every other month I was giving myself like 45 days in between each section of study, and then take the next section. And looking back at it now, I do not recommend that for folks
So is
that are
it like
exploring
fast pacing?
It's pretty fast pacing.
Oh, like
so you initially have 18 months to pass all 4 parts from the time you receive your first passing score.
So you have to make it within 18 months.
So once you get your first pass, and they've changed it now, it's a little bit different. I think they've extended it to 24 months. But whenever I was taking it, you had 4 parts, and you had to pass all 4 within 18 months. Meaning from the time you got your first score, you had 18 months from then to finish the rest of the sections. So I ended up going beyond that, and actually I lost my first test score and had to start all over from scratch.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it was look, it was. I do not have a pretty pass of the CPA exam, but it was one thing that I knew I had to finish even after the failed tests, because it was something that was important to me. And so for people that come out the gate and they pass all 4 parts, back to back to back to back, like, props to you. Like, you're very good at that. Congrats. That was not me.
What happens if you don't? What happens if you don't get it in within the 18 months? Do you have to restart again?
Lose. You start over on the first pass.
Oh, that's so brutal.
So that happened to me. So I lost my first passing score.
Okay.
Because I took more than 18 months to pass the other 3. So I essentially had to start back over.
I hate to hear it.
Oh, it was brutal, man. Like I said, I just loved it so much. I wanted to give them all my money and take the test multiple times. Because these at the time were $300 or $400 a pop.
Yeah.
And the firm I was working at the time only paid for the first exam.
Oh, yeah, good for you. You love that.
So they paid for the first exam, but they didn't pay for a failing score. So once I failed the next go round, so it was. Let me tell you what, it was brutal brutal and expensive to say the least to get my CPA.
Well, at least by the 3rd time, you're like, I know the stuff.
Yeah. Look, I would take a 30 over getting. So you needed I think it was a 70 or a 75 to pass. And I would take getting a 30 over getting like a 69 or a 70, whatever there was, a point off from passing. I would take like half of that over 1 point off, because then you're just mad.
Yeah.
Like if you're in a 30 or a 40 or a 50, you're like, okay, I've got some serious studying to do.
Sure.
And so you get a little bit more at least in my case, I got more motivation. But if you're at like 1 point off, you're sitting there and you're like, that was one question. That was one question I did C when it should have been B. And then it like just eats you up. That happened to me once.
I can only imagine. I'd be so pissed.
Oh, yeah. It was not a good day, man. When you get those scores, and they've changed it now, I think now but I don't know for 100%, they just tell you if you pass or fail. So there's no more scoring.
Oh, that would trip me out too.
So
What
like,
did I mess
yeah,
up?
when you get a fail, like, okay, great. But like at the time, we would get a score attached with that. And
Okay.
so we would know, okay, you got this score, which means you fail. You got this score, which means you pass.
Mm-hmm.
And unlike your universities, there's no rounding. There's no dropping to the lowest score.
Yeah, you either pass or you don't.
That's right. You pass or you fail. But they're doing things now in the profession to try to mitigate the challenges to becoming licensed,
Yeah.
to encourage more folks to pursue the accounting as a profession.
That's a lot of numbers.
It's a lot of numbers, but man, people think that accounting is only numbers, but it's really not. Like, handling the numbers is one of the least amount of time spent in my day.
I bet you build some really great relationships along the way.
You build great relationships. You get this bond with your clients where you're there ride or die for the
Sure.
most part in the financial world. But what's more important is you get to share in their wins and you get to help them solve the problems of the losses.
Yeah.
And you're with them every step of the way. So for me, I've gotten to the point in my career now where my days aren't spent. I mean, I still do a lot of number crunching, don't get me wrong. But for the most part, it's having conversations, trying to problem solve a situation that's come up, or the exciting times are analyzing new deals, analyzing new investment opportunities, or pursuing a budget for a potential new concept, right? And so you get to do some fun stuff that's not just sitting behind a desk with a green visor and a pocket protector saying, let's crunch these numbers and file this tax return. Like
Right.
that still exists, don't get me wrong. But the path that I chose was not that. So being where I'm at now, owning my own firm, Daguerre Gremillion Advisors, we do a lot more of the outsourced CFO, the more business advisory role that people look to CPAs for.
Yeah.
Where if you're an individual and you've got a tax return you need filed, we're really not the folks to talk to.
Yeah.
You need to talk to a more traditional CPA firm. And, we made that switch back in December to go this route, go all in, because that was the side of CPA life that was most attractive to me and where I was spending the majority of my time anyways.
Yeah.
Was helping these business owners and helping them kind of figure out what their next move is while also ensuring their current operations are operating efficiently.
Yeah. Why not stay in the space that you really enjoy?
Correct. Like audits, man, don't even send me one. Like a test services are nothing that I enjoy. I think I was on one audit my entire time at the traditional CPA firm, and I was like quick to leave.
Yeah.
And I enjoy tax. I really do enjoy tax, but that's a season thing. And while you should be doing some form of tax planning year round, it's really seasonal.
Yeah.
And I just don't want to have to file like 1,000 individuals, man.
Yeah.
Where you've got these big firms, these big four, these big six, and that's all that they are pushing is you've got to get so many returns through the door that they're just trying to process them quickly and as efficiently as they can.
Yeah.
Whereas me, I'd rather sit and have a conversation with my client and figure out, okay, what's going on? What can we do here? What's some upcoming stuff? Let's set, a recurring meeting that we're touching base throughout the year. Like we're once a month, once a quarter. Some folks I'm talking to every single day. And it just depends on what level of need that they have. And that to me is much more exciting in the CPA world than doing an audit. But I know some folks who love audits and they love only tax work. So there's a little bit of whatever flavor you want in the world of accounting, but in reality, you can figure out the path you want to go, and you can always change it, but you can stick to it and kind of get outside of that normal, traditional, man, you're working 60, 70, 80 hours a week in the CPA life, and it's just hard work, and it's hard work, don't get me wrong, but you don't have to work such strenuous hours for so many years just to be successful. Like, I work a ton, right? But you're not stuck on one siloed little project in one specific area for the entire year like some of the big four folks will end up putting you in.
Yeah.
Because they're just trying to get as much work out of you as possible, and then you're going to burn out and crash, and then you're going to call me. When in reality, you call me in the first place, and you're going to have a much better life.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
but that's a little bit about, and then I host the Patty G Show.
Patty G.
And then now I've got a production company too. I forgot about that.
Busy man, huh?
Yes, PB&J Productions. So
Heck yeah. Awesome. I didn't know that part.
yeah.
What is that recently?
So
How new was that?
we started PB&J back in 2024. Jay Parker and myself, we started PB&J Productions.
Man, that name sounds familiar. Who is that?
This is Jay Parker.
Jay Parker.
What do you mean? Who is that?
I'm lost. Okay.
So he had a big stint in radio, helping some radio folks get their production levels off the ground. But he's got over a decade of podcasts, webcasts, YouTube series, just shows.
Okay, I think I know who you're talking about now.
Okay.
I think I can picture him in my head now.
All right.
I think I've talked to this guy.
I wouldn't doubt it. He's in and around Baton Rouge.
I think so. Anyway.
So anyhow, so that's me in a short, condensed, very precise nutshell.
I love it. I love it. That's so much to balance.
Yeah, it is, man.
That is so much. Like I'm doing my regular job,
right?
And I'm also doing the podcast too. And I'm like, man, that's a lot right there.
So, what's your regular job?
So I am a civil structural designer.
Civil structural designer.
Yes. Yeah. So it's in my bio, but I draw stuff for a living.
You draw.
Literally. I draw stuff for a living. I model stuff. My nephew was asking me the other day, like, so what do you do again? And I was trying to describe to him, like, well, I draw stuff, but then I also model. So think of it this way: if you're playing the game Halo, there used to be a little thing called Forge, and you can actually create your own little maps to like play Slayer or whatever it's called. Well, I got really good at that when I was younger. Well, what I do is basically kind of the same. Now, I build things. So if a client has, something that they need me to do, I'll literally just model it up, put it on paper, go out the door.
Love it.
So, yeah, it's neat. It's different. Didn't think that was going to be my route, but
here you are.
God's got a way.
That's right, man. It all happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And then we figure out later on in life that it was a good reason.
Oh my gosh, yeah. The amount of construction experience that I have ties into it really well. So what sparked the idea to launch the Patty G Show for you, which is again Patrick's podcast?
So the idea to launch the Patty G Show really originated back when I was at LSU. So back in 2016, 2017, podcasts were growing in popularity, not to the degree they are now, where literally everyone and their mother has one.
I think COVID, everyone was stuck at home.
Yeah.
Like, what do I do? And then it just popped.
So podcasting popped in COVID, but webcast and also just web interactions where people were recording their conversations really popped. So in 16 and 17, I was actually at LSU taking English 2, and our professor for one of our assignments had us make a podcast and listen to a podcast rather than writing a paper. So we had to listen to the podcast called Serial. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them.
No.
They're a true crime podcast, very, very well put together, a phenomenal series. We had to listen to them to kind of hear how they go about doing things, and they do it very, very heavily edited, where they're putting in music prompts, they're putting in storytelling, they've got interviews with people, because it's true crime, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really cool, really well done. And so from that, we had to do our own podcast episode on a certain topic. So we had to research it, and then LSU actually had a podcast studio in in the Quad, one of those buildings in the Quad. They had a podcast studio where we went and recorded it, and then we ended up using Audacity to edit and everything. So while we were there, I got familiar enough with podcasts to know that they were a thing. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I was a very big Gary Vaynerchuk fan. So I don't know if you're familiar with him or not.
No.
He is a very big social character, influencer, and kind of helps entrepreneurs. He really started off on YouTube very early on with his dad's wine wine and liquor store and kind of blew up from there.
Who? Wait,
Gary V.
Yes,
Okay.
Gary V. Yeah, I love him. He's a great inspiration. Yeah.
Yeah. So he had a show and was all over social at the time, talking about podcasting and talking about how that's going to be big and you need to get one, so on and so forth. And so that coupled with the English course, I was like, okay, I got to look into this. So I started looking through it with the lens of marketing and thinking this would be a great marketing tool for my parents' business.
Yep.
And so pitched it to my dad, and he was like, look, we're an industrial plumbing company.
Yeah.
I don't know if people want to listen to us talk about toilets all day. And I was like, well, I was like, they might. I was like, your customers might.
Yeah.
And so from there, I was like, okay, let me go talk to the CPA firm I was at. And so I told the CPA firm, like, hey, like, we should really do this, like, for the firm. Like, we would be industry leaders, so on and so forth. And they're like, well, we'll talk about it at the partner meeting, but it's kind of giving away our advice for free when really we bill for that. I was like, well,
Okay.
but the advice you'd be given on the show is so generic that people could take it and run with it.
It would probably
but
go
it would
over a lot
go
of people's heads.
Well, my thought was to dumb it down
Yeah.
to where it wouldn't go over people's heads.
Okay.
But even then, the world of accounting and the world of being a CPA, everything is so individualized. I could give you one generic scenario, and it would apply to one person out of maybe 20.
Okay.
So there it's just so specific. And they said no. So I said, okay, I still have this pulling, this feeling of like, I still want to do a podcast. And so while I was at LSU and not filling my time with, Tigerland Adventures, I was talking to the guest lecturers and professors that would come into the entrepreneurship classes.
Okay.
And so the guest lecturers were business owners. And so I was talking with them, getting familiar with their background, their story,
Yeah.
and then just kind of learning from them and like go and grab coffee. And then I started developing this like Rolodex of these business owners. And I was like, why don't I just record a show where I take our conversations and just publish it? Like that'd be a pretty cool show. And I'm like, but is that really something that would be attractive to folks? Mm-hmm. All the while, I've got fellow students that are telling me they can't wait to leave Baton Rouge. They can't wait to get out of Louisiana and go where the opportunities are. And I'm like, why? You don't need to leave Louisiana to find that.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many opportunities here. There's so many businesses doing cool stuff. And I said, why do you have this feeling you need to leave? And they said, well, we don't see any opportunities here. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like you opened your eyes. Like, there's so many opportunities here in Louisiana.
They are.
And they said, well, no one's talking about it. So I'm like, that's the problem.
Yep. There's your point.
There's the reason behind doing the show is there's nobody talking about it. And if no one's talking about it, the people coming up don't know it exists. Or if you're not in the circles, you don't know it exists.
Yes.
So I said, let's solve that problem. So from there, I just started, texting my friends like, hey, do you want to come on my podcast and record this show with me? And, the idea is Louisiana entrepreneurs. So it was like local entrepreneurs sharing local stories was the tagline at the time. Yeah. That's what I came up with. And the naming conventions on a show can just bog you down. Like, I was trying to figure out what to name this thing. And I was like, I don't want it to tie me down to one specific area. I want it to be more broad. Yep. So then I started looking at the Tonight Show with featuring Jimmy Fallon or whatever it's called. Yep. Then you have the Jay Leno show, and I'm like, all these shows, these people do one thing for the most part, but then they do a bunch of other stuff on the side. But it all fits under the umbrella of the show. So I said, okay, it can't be like Entrepreneur's Corner or something like that. Yeah. I'm like, that would be too limiting to what I'm trying to do here. I wanted a more broad name. And so during high school, I got the name Patty G. And it was like a buddy of mine started calling me Patty G for all of high school. And then we would do volleyball and we would get jerseys made and it would be Patty G on the back. So okay. It's like, why don't I just call it the Patty G Show? And so it kind of just came from that on the name. And the first show recorded was me. I can still picture it to this day because I got home from work and was like, you just have to record a show. Like, dude, you just have to do it.
You just got to do it.
And at the time, video was not as prevalent as it is today with podcasts. Yeah. they were very much heavily audio only.
Yep.
But I knew out the gate I wanted video. I'm like, I need video.
Same.
Video is a must.
Same.
So I was like in my truck and I held my phone and I like pressed record video and I did like 2 or 3 different takes or something. I was like, this is not right. Doesn't feel right. So I said, okay, you've got 15 or 20 minutes before your wife gets home. Let's just go inside and let's just record no video. Like, let's just record something. So I went inside and put my phone on my desk and I just pressed record and voice memos. And I think I just blabbered for like 12 minutes.
Yep.
And then I uploaded it. I said, as soon as you record it, you have to upload it. Like, that's it. Like, there's no editing, no nothing. I think I put it on my computer.
All raw.
All raw, man. And I put it on my computer. I think I found a song that we still use, at least at the date of this initial airing, we still use from YouTube, free music. License-free, user-free music. So YouTube has a library of this stuff. That creators will create free of charge. There's no licensing. There's no fees you got to pay. At least when I did this, that wasn't the case. I've not looked at it since. So they may have changed things. But I pulled a song, I pulled a clip, and I listened to like probably 100 different songs. Because podcast intro music is also very tedious to nail down what do you want it to sound like and what do you want to explore. What do you want the sound to resonate with people?
Yep.
So like I'm going through like a rebranding or reimaging of the show right now, and figuring out music and logo redesign, all that stuff is it's a lot. So I slapped that on the beginning and the end, and posted it. And sure enough, the show was born. From there, episode 2 was a good buddy of mine, Daniel Allender, and we sat down on my kitchen table, and we just talked for like 30, 45 minutes. And I was like, great, there's episode 2 in the bag. So then we go to episode 3, and now I had video coming in from episode 3 because Daniel was into video at the time. And this is also after I convinced my wife to let me buy gear. So she was like, yeah, you can spend $100 on Amazon. That was my budget at the time, was $100. So being a DJ in high school, I knew audio. So I'm like, okay, DJ, like audio's easy. I know all that bit. I did all that in high school, no big deal. So I was able to buy my audio gear. And then sure enough, from there, just started the ball rolling of bettering the show, adding more guests, and then getting the guests that come on to connect me in their network and say, who do you recommend to come on the show? And so from there, it just kind of blossomed into where we are today. I think we're 6 years in it, because we were September of 2019 when we first started. So almost 6 years into it, and 264 or 5 episodes, something like that.
I saw that.
So we've come a long way from an iPhone 8 as my recording device.
Look, I was listening to you say you recorded on your phone. I have a special surprise after we make one. Well, not this podcast.
Okay.
After Trulea Entertainment makes 1 year, I have about 32 recordings that are all about 35 to 40 minutes long.
Okay.
Of this same stuff, and it's literally it explains where my head was at and how I got to point A to point B to make the podcast become a reality.
No way. So you were documenting your whole planning process?
The whole thing.
That's cool.
The whole thing. Why, ultimately, at first it was like, okay, well, can I make a little bit of money with this and then make a company. I knew originally I wanted to make it a company. So if, it blew up, when, right?
There you go. The when, not if.
That's right. When it blows up, can I sell merchandise right at first? Yeah. Okay, great. I have an LLC. We'll figure it out. And when that time comes, we'll figure it out, right? And maybe you can help me with that, Patrick.
Merch?
Yeah.
I know how to do some merch. Yeah. I had a lifestyle brand back in the day.
Come on.
I would sell T-shirts and stickers and koozies and all that stuff, man.
So, ultimately, this little series that I did, I say little, it's not little. It really, like I would drive home from work. As soon as I get in the truck, I would hit record and just start talking, rambling. Mm-hmm. And I have like 30. It's like 30 of them. Yeah,
That's some gold right there.
It's pretty. Yeah. Well, I want to get the podcast going, and after we make a year, I want to release these extremely raw, unedited, like don't know where I was going with this, and it ties it. Oh wait, this is how we got from point A to point B, and here we are now.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty cool little, nostalgic thing that we can look back at in a year.
Oh yeah, when it gives people an insight into your thinking and thought process of where you were, and kind of also see how true did you stay to it.
Yeah, yeah. No, this is we're spot on right now. We're definitely spot on.
I love it, man.
Yeah, and you had said like you build your community and you start the more podcasters you have on, the more podcasters, the more guests that you have on. You get a little bit of insight of their community and stuff like that. And I've come to realize a lot of what you're saying about Louisiana is like the opportunities are here all day long. I even think Gordon McKernan was talking about this the other day. Like and I've talked about it recently on my podcast with Magnolia Wilds, Gabe Ligon. We're an extremely attractive state. Like come to Louisiana, you'll know. Come to an LSU game, come to Baton Rouge. Their opportunities are there. Really, you just got to open your eyes. It's there.
Yeah, you have to be looking for it, right?
Yeah.
So as with anywhere, you could go to any city, any state. If you're not looking for something, and you're just waiting for this opportunity just dropped in my lap. They don't ever drop in your lap. You're looking for it. You're putting yourself in a position to be where they are. And yeah, if you talk to people in Baton Rouge, you talk to people in Louisiana, you're going to find out where the opportunities are.
Sure.
And you just got to put a little bit of work in and you'll find them and you'll make it happen. But it's a whole lot easier to do that here than it is to do it in a Dallas or a Houston.
Well, yeah.
You can see the impact immediately.
Yeah, the industries they're just a little bit bigger. But we're working on it. I think as we're going to continue to get people coming into Baton Rouge, coming into New Orleans, coming into everywhere in Louisiana. I do think that's going to come. It's coming.
Yeah,
it's coming. I lost my train of thought. I must need another bourbon.
Yeah.
So. Man, I wish I was a good topic I was about to bring up. Sure enough.
We're talking about the success of Baton Rouge, the opportunities here in Louisiana, more people coming in.
Yeah. I think if... Yeah, we don't have to beat it to the bush, but I think if people understood and knew how to, not wait for someone to open up the curtain, but actually open it up for themselves...
Or at least knock on the door.
Yeah. Or, knock on the door. And don't wait for someone to open up the door.
Yeah.
I think that's where some people maybe can mislead or see maybe Louisiana being. Because the opportunities are there as long as you're looking for it, like you said.
Well, yeah, you have to go and find it, right? Mm-hmm. You have... Even though you've got waiter, you still got to place the order.
Yep.
Like nobody's reading your mind and saying, "Oh, you want this dinner tonight." Like you still got to put in a little bit of something.
Yep.
But as soon as you start, you're gonna open up this whole new side of things and realize there is way more than you could ever get in your lifetime.
Yeah, and even if you don't know, like I have found that we as humanity, we're just ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like more often than not, you're gonna find the people that you're trying to connect with at least be more open to helping you. I really do think that. I mean, even with this podcast, yourself, Meredith with Sweet Baton Rouge, I find more people, if you just ask the question, they're more than likely to help you when they can, where they can,
Oh, yeah.
So I want to take a quick break, talk about our sponsor, Sweet Heat for Your Meat. This is the can right here. You can find them at sweetheatforyourmeat.com. On the website, there is a list of vendors where you can go. They're located in about 30 of the Rouses right now. to give y'all an updated list. I think Charlie's still got about 38 more. He's trying to get into right now. And Charlie is of course the owner of Sweet Heat for Your Meat. And it's awesome. It's a bold flavor that meets bold conversations. You like that tagline?
Love it, man.
I got the approval. So yeah, guys, if you can, check out Sweet Heat for Your Meat and find out where to go. Just go to online at sweetheatforyourmeat.com. All right. So and we kind of touched the second topic, but you know I grew up. Here's the best description. I live in Louisiana. Mm-hmm. My parents were divorced, or are divorced. I grew up in both Louisiana and Mississippi.
Okay.
Really early childhood, Louisiana. Moved from Louisiana at like 2 to Mississippi, which is I lived in Centerville, Mississippi. And then parents divorced, so then I split time between Mississippi and Louisiana. So you can almost call me a redneck and a coon ass.
Yeah.
So
fits the bill. Yeah.
I know, right? Well, with that said, Patrick, I want to know what is your favorite memory growing up in Louisiana?
So one of my favorite memories growing up here in Louisiana, and being that we are sportsman's paradise, where people come for all things sportsmanship, is I had the fortunate circumstance to go with my dad to a work day. So him being a civil engineer, he inspected a lot of bridges and worked on the LA1 project to connect to Grand Isle. So we would go down there, and we had to go to Fouchon one day. Uh-huh. And so we went down to Fouchon off of Falgoux Bayou, where Mr. Ted Falgoux lived.
Okay.
Raised and bred alligators. So we got to go see his alligator farm. And while I was there, it was hatching day. So I got to hold in my hand and hatch.
Baby alligators?
I got to hatch and crack open the egg that had a baby alligator in it.
That is freaking cool.
So literally you would crack a chicken egg for breakfast. Yeah. I was sitting there helping these alligators crack out of their eggs, and then holding a baby alligator. How
cool is that? How far was the mom away?
Well, it's a whole operation, man. Okay. We were in an incubator space where all the eggs are being incubated, totally separate from the mom. Yeah, this was not a wild. This is, you walk in there and you got warehouses of alligators that have ponds that they live, because part of the alligator program is he has to release so many of his hatched alligators a year back to the wild. So he is hatching alligators, and a percentage of all the alligators that he hatches, he has to put back in the wild with tags and all that stuff. So we were in totally separate vicinities from the mom and the dads and all that stuff. But just being there, we got to, started off the morning. My dad had a meeting, and then he went to go look at the bridge, and then we went to this alligator farm, and we got to hatch these alligators. And I was like, this is so cool. Then from there, we got to go fishing with Mr. Ted. And
down in Fouchon?
Down in Fouchon.
Yeah.
And we put in his bayou, and we drive out of the bayou, and he brings us to this spot that I kid you not is we're on this main canal, and we got these two other bayous that come and tie in. So it's a 3-point area. Mm-hmm. And it's brackish water. It's the first time I've ever fished in brackish water.
I have never fished in brackish water, believe it or not.
Dude, it's wild. You are on one side of the boat, and at the time I was little, where I was using a Zebco rod.
There you go.
A little thumb push Zebco rod. And within the matter of 45 minutes to maybe an hour, we limited out on redfish.
Isn't that the funnest?
And caught 24 bass in the same spot.
Patrick, I'm gonna need to know this location.
I can't tell you. I can't tell you the location. But literally, I'm in the back of the boat, and I'm catching fish so fast, as quicker. I'm casting out. I'm bringing in a redfish, and I'm bringing like a 22, 24-inch redfish.
And that's perfect.
And then
for the listeners,
I'm throwing it in the boat, and my dad's unhooking it, and like it was before like he could pick up his own rod, I'd hooked onto like a 16, 18-inch bass. And then I'm reeling the bass in. And like the experience of brackish fishing is crazy. And we would sit at a spot for no more than 10 minutes and then move and go to another spot. And as soon as one cast went out the boat that we didn't catch a fish, we would pack up and we moved because he knew of every little spot. And so just being there in that day of, because we were homeschooled, so this was, this was a field trip day.
Sure, why not?
It was a very educational day.
Yeah.
Biology, sure.
Why not?
And like we came back with an ice chest full of fish and just an incredible. And then we went and caught speckled trout further down the canal. And I was just like, this is insane.
Yeah.
That you can have this day as a student-aged kid in Louisiana and it be normal.
So
like I saw it as normal, right? And so, now at the older I've gotten, going down to Grand River and going down to other spots where we can still go fishing, and catching frogs on the bank, and then, getting mischievous and grabbing alligators out of the water. Like all that stuff to me is perfectly normal. Well, it's what I grew up doing.
It's our culture.
It's our culture, and you tell that to somebody up on the east or west coast, and they're like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
But then you also get the folks who are like, "Oh yeah, your pet alligator." And I'm like, you laugh. I don't necessarily have one, but my dad had one for a while growing up that he and his brothers caught and like smuggled back to the house.
That's what reminds me of.
What?
Have you ever seen the movie Lake Placid?
No.
So Betty White, that R.I.P. Betty White. Literally, the whole premise of the movie, she just raises pet alligators, and these alligators just get huge and they start eating people.
Well, that's not good.
No.
But yeah, so like doing that is probably one of my fondest memories that I have in Louisiana, like because it's so Louisiana.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
Like it just hits all the boxes.
Yeah, you just don't know until like you're out here and like literally that's just what we do.
Yeah,
it is. Patrick, what is your go-to Louisiana dish to eat?
Ooh, good one. So my go-to, like if I want something like really Louisiana and like really authentic to Louisiana, I love a good shrimp and grits.
You're gonna make me hungry now.
Like a good shrimp and grits or good fried alligator.
Oh yeah, now you're in the spot.
Like fried alligator, shrimp and grits, and just because like you can get that generally, mostly, but I guess it depends on where you're going. A large chunk of the year you can get that. Your crawfish and your shrimp bowls and your crab bowls are always good and fun, but like you're not gonna. I try not to order boiled crawfish at a sit-down restaurant.
Yep.
Now, if I'm going to a crawfish-only shop, I'll order it there and sit down, or I'll boil it ourselves, or we'll go to like a crawfish trailer that's parked in parking lots. Like stuff like that.
That's
is
real
great.
Too, guys.
But that's also seasonal, so you can't get that year-round. But a good shrimp and grits year-round, done right, you can't go
done
wrong.
right.
Yeah,
it's done right. Yeah.
Or
and
oysters.
You can find, I feel like you can find that in most, like, as long as it's like a Louisiana local restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you can't really miss on those.
Yeah.
Or
good fresh raw oysters on the half shell.
You know what? Hot take, guys. If I'm out of state and I see New Orleans style anything, I'm like, nope. And no offense, it's just like
you don't know. It's not New Orleans.
It's not the same.
So they're leveraging our culture as a economical gain.
Yeah.
Because they're labeling it New Orleans.
That's because we know how to cook, guys.
But they're taking our cultural assets, our state-built assets, and getting economic gain from it. So they're kind of stealing from us.
I know. Shout out to Louisiana.
Shout out and a dig at Applebee's for their New Orleans menu items.
What?
I think it's Applebee's.
Dude, I haven't.
They have like their New Orleans dishes now.
Yeah.
It's like their advertisement, like, oh, come get a flavor of New Orleans. And I'm like, you're playing the least New Orleans music on this ad. And
Right.
you've got the least New Orleans flavors on that menu item. That's what you think New Orleans is
You know what
supposed
really
to
grinds
taste
my
like.
gears? It's the musical.
Yes,
on
the music.
Applebee's.
Like, come on, guys. Do a little bit of research. At least have a New Orleans artist song on there.
Yeah.
Like, don't just get some generic stuff you think is... It's always Mardi Gras. Like, it's always Mardi Gras music. I'm like, you're playing this in, like, June or July.
Yep.
Like, you're not even close to Mardi Gras.
Yeah. I
Like,
know.
get some... If you're going to steal from us, at least use our people
Yeah.
and our music.
Yeah.
You know, don't just get something that sounds like it's New Orleans.
Just pop out some like Boosie on the Applebee's.
Right, you know, like,
Applebee's.
you know, or Trombone Shorty, like, come on now, like, get something.
Oh wow. Yeah. So with Louisiana topic, we have tailgating.
Yeah.
And for those of our listeners, I don't know if you've ever been to a Louisiana LSU tailgate, but it is
It's a different. That's a
it's
different
an
vibe.
animal. It is an animal, and if you're not ready, you're just out of luck because you're going to be swept in, not even knowing. What is? Does any of you? Do you have any stories of tailgating that really stand out to you? That is just like, wow, what in the world?
So,
If you don't,
I've got. It's always stories, right? It's just like which ones are appropriate for the show.
oh, we're good here. We're
So my fondest memory of tailgating, let's go with that route. So my fondest memories of tailgating was while I was a student at LSU. We would go with a friend of ours who had he was tailgating in the same spot every single game for like years and years and years.
Yeah.
And so we would go there and hang out with him and do your typical, LSU tailgating stuff, food, drink, all that jazz. And then we would go to the game at LSU with our student tickets that at the time was like $100 a year for every single home game. It was
crazy.
beautiful.
Yeah, I bet. I wish.
And so we would go to every LSU home game, and we would stay to the very end of every single game, sing the alma mater, sing the
Yep.
Breaking Bread song,
Yep.
and we would walk out as like some of the last folks.
Can't wait.
Then we would go to the Union and get Chick-fil-A because they were still open.
Oh,
So that was like our routine while we were at LSU was to do that. And the reason we would go to like Chick-fil-A because it was on campus and my wife had a meal plan so we could use her Paw Points
perfect.
to
There you
pay
go.
for Chick-fil-A. So that was like our go-to tailgating strategy and just history of going to LSU games.
I love that, man. I feel like one of my favorites is it was like a 2:00 game, and believe it or not, it was a 2:00 game. We have a friend that he has tailgated for like 25 years on the I forget what it's called, the
Victory Hill?
Victory Hill.
By the Indian Mounds.
Yes, and like he's halfway down the hill to the left.
Yeah.
Always been there. Him and his buddies always been there. And one year they had an ice luge.
I think it's wild.
So it gets wild. And I walk up and I'm like, "Hey man, what's going on?" He's, "Oh yeah, what's going on? Y'all need something? We're good." He was like, "Here, try this." And we look over to our left, and sure enough, it's like a 9-foot ice luge, like 9 foot tall, but like 9 foot long. I'm like, whoa, I've never seen one in person. It's crazy. And sure enough, we did the ice luge. My wife, her friend, myself. At 2:00 game, we're doing ice luge at like 11 o'clock.
And look, it's a time. I've been to a tailgate with an ice luge, and they were pouring drinks out of a gas can.
It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's great memories.
Oh yeah.
It's great memories, man. If you've never been, guys,
You just gotta
y'all
go.
have to go. I mean, if you had to just do a nutshell of what Louisiana is and how we are just a great community, go to an LSU game or tailgate. Everyone, the hospitality is there. It don't matter if you don't have food in your hand. Oh, someone's gonna put it in your hand.
Food in your hand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The next topic I want to talk about with you is what the podcast landscape, like where we are now, what we're going to look like in the future. What do you see podcasting becoming in the future, say 5 years? Because not to get political, but it was pretty important in the last election, and we don't have to touch on that subject, but we could kind of see where like podcasts could be. You know, I find it another stream of media in a sense. What do you see podcasting becoming in 5 years?
So it's an unrestricted, unregulated medium for the most part.
For the most part, yep.
That you can say and do what you wish on whatever show you have.
Yeah.
And there's no regulatory body governing podcasting. The individual platforms do their best and try to uphold a set of standards and guidelines, but there's no fining for language, opinions, and or content conducted on the show, where you have that governing body in TV and radio, for example. So on radio, you've got a language situation where if you say a certain word, you can get fined. On TV, you say a certain word, you can get fined. If you show a certain graphic, you can get fined.
Yeah.
And you've got to pay it. Podcasting doesn't have that, and I don't know if it ever will. I'm sure some people will try to figure out how to make that happen. But as far as the landscape as a whole, when I first got into it, it was heavily audio. So people were very much microphones only, no video, rarely any photos. Rarely did they have a social media page tied to the podcast itself.
Yeah.
Now what you're going to see over the next several years is podcasting becoming a business for some, as it already is.
Yeah.
But more so, people will get way more into video, and it's going to have a shift from the podcast is really just another medium of delivery, not necessarily a label of product.
Yeah.
So you've got podcast people think in the form of audio only. And it still is today. You've got, your big Apple podcasting is starting to get into video, but not for everybody. And I was one of the first few folks on Spotify that got to get video podcasting. So it's starting to get more and more with video across the platforms. But when you get to that point where every platform allows video, now they're all kind of just competing with YouTube and long-form video consumption.
Yeah.
So people will call it a podcast, but really it's just now a virtual show.
Yep.
Because you're using the video element. And you're still going to have it look like a podcast where you're going to have your microphones present, people with headphones, and the gear is going to become more of a piece of the production and the visual effect. Sure. Whereas your late night shows, they're using lapel mics, they're using overhead boom mics, they're using something to hide so you don't see the microphones. That's like your TV, is you don't want to see it. Whereas podcasting, we use it in branding, we use it in visuals, we use it in everything. So you want to see that microphone. It's just kind of how the image has been portrayed. But I think over the next 5 years, it'll shift more towards just a medium than a product itself. So just people pulling their video sound and extrapolating it from their video and saying, here's now we're now in podcast form.
Yeah.
And it just being that.
I think we'll see actual big name TV providers have an actual channel for podcasting.
I agree. We're actually that happens locally already. So WAFB actually airs the Patty G show on their TV.
Get out of town.
Every Friday. I
didn't know that.
Yeah, so every Friday we air on WAFB.
How cool is that?
In addition to,
do you have a
WAFB
time? Is there a time?
So they make it fit. They do their whole team. We'll send them the file because we're way over their time. I mean, each one of my shows is a minimum an hour.
Yeah.
And so we're way over their 45 minutes or 50 minutes that they allot for TV, but they'll edit it down. And so sure enough, every Friday they're airing it across the airwaves, across
That's
the
so
TV
cool,
waves.
man.
And then it's also on WFB Plus. So that's already happening.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was thinking about that literally like the past month. I'm like, man, I guarantee there is going to be a legit channel where it's podcasting. And there might even be like I'll do one further. Shout out to whoever does it technical. I guarantee, similar to what we have for Netflix, we'll have a podcast one, where it's a channel like ESPN.
Yeah.
Where you go into it, instead of having the Spotify or Apple Music, you'll have it on your TV, and it's just like a channel where you can just pick and choose.
Yeah, I mean you can do that with Spotify on your TV already.
Oh, can you?
Yeah. So like if you
I've
go,
never tried it.
So like if you have a smart TV and you got Spotify, you can like go to the Patty G show and you can start playing it, and it'll come across as the full video. It'll go full screen. You can actually watch it.
I guess I've never just tried to do that.
You can also say Alexa, play the Patty G show, and she'll start playing the show.
Huh. Well, I knew that one. I got the Alexa. I knew that one.
Yeah. So yeah, you can watch them. Like that's how I had several folks reach out to me. That's the only way they consume the show. Yeah. They only consume the show by watching it on TV.
You know what surprised me right now? We're actually pulling better numbers on YouTube. Surprised me. I was like, huh.
Oh yeah. YouTube has a whole podcasting section too.
Gotcha.
So you can upload your show as a normal YouTube video, and then you can also add it to the podcast section of the platform.
Ah. If someone started their own podcast tomorrow, what is the biggest advice that you could try and tell them or give them?
Reach out to us at PB&J Productions, and we'll handle everything.
I love it. Yes, indeed.
But no, the biggest piece of advice is don't try to make it perfect out the gate from a content standpoint.
I struggled with that.
Obviously, audio and video equipment is more accessible than ever, and you've got folks like us at PB&J Productions that can do stuff like that for you already, and you don't have to make the upfront investment.
Yeah.
But don't worry about figuring out, okay, is this content going to be perfect? Is this the format I want to go? Don't get so hung up on it. Yeah. Figure out what your overall theme is. Stick to the theme, but give yourself a little leeway here and there. And then make sure you can do at least 12 episodes. Make sure you get a 12 episode. I'm not saying record all 12 and then start publishing, but like get your 12 in line and locked in.
Yeah.
So that way you can have a little bit of runway, because it's going to take a few to get some traction. And you're going to need to make sure that when you have folks in the traditional sense of listening to podcasts, they're very routine. So they want to know when you're coming out with a new show so they can listen to it, whether it's on their way to work, whether it's in the afternoon, or however they're consuming you. They get into a routine of consuming your show. Yep. And if you get off schedule, you get off track, well, then you're potentially going to lose that listener or that group of listeners. Yep. And it's not going to be of benefit for you to do one show and then be like, we'll do one in the next 2 or 3 months. Whatever the time. I'm not saying you have to do a weekly show, or a daily show for that matter, but just figure out a cadence that works for you. Get into it and stick to it.
Yeah, right now I love that. I'm learning stuff as we're talking. We're experimenting on different days releasing. Does it have an effect on our listeners? Because I told my wife this. I'm more inclined to listen to a podcast earlier in the week. And maybe it's just my situation, because earlier in the week, usually I'm bogged down with work and I'm really crunching, right? So I'll have my headphones in, listening to the podcast for like 2.5 days straight. Like no just regular songs, like boom, listening straight. Later in the week, I find myself not listening as much. I'm still listening, but not as much, because I guess I've caught up on, because that's my time to be able to listen is a lot earlier in the week rather than later. But again, that's just me. And I love that. That's a good insight, man. I like that. What's been the biggest lesson you've learned as a podcast host?
Wow. Biggest lesson I've learned as a podcast host is give everyone a chance to talk. So I operate as a host of, on a bad day, an 80-20 rule. On a good day, 90-10. Meaning I want the guest to talk 80% of the time, and me talk 20% of the time on a bad day. On a good day, 90-10, and I've had some that are 95-5.
Yeah.
But give them the chance to talk and let them get through their thoughts. And it works out the same way in real life. I say real life, it is real life.
Yeah.
In real conversations outside of a podcast where you want to have, your ears listening at all time, and also be an attentive listener, not just a present listener where you're here but you're listening but you're not really listening. You got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them in the right ratio.
Yes, my wife can agree.
So that's one of the biggest things, and it spills into my professional life of I'm making sure I'm taking the time to listen to my clients to fully understand their situation before giving a recommendation.
Yeah. I love that. Guys, you heard it from Patty G. Patrick, thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course, man.
I'm very grateful to know you and continue our relationship, and hopefully you can teach me some stuff, man.
Yeah, I mean you're on a great path. I don't know how much I can teach you.
I'm trying. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Always DM us. Let us know what your thoughts. Email us at truleaentertainment.podcast@gmail.com. Until next time, guys. Deuces.
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 Deuces. I love it.